English 437. Welcome to Petition Project, Part 2. If you did not see Part 1, then I'm very sorry. It's on YouTube if you care to. But this is Part 2, and it is about African American history in Lynchburg. I am really sleep deprived and thus really excited about this right now. But yeah, so first we're going to talk about the obvious question of the fact that our city is named Lynchburg. Yeah, it is not named after what you would think it is. It is named after, according to this lovely plaque here, our city's founder. His name was John Lynch. He had nothing to do with lynching. His brother, on the other hand, is the guy that it was named after, but he didn't have anything to do with lynching African Americans. He was around during the Revolutionary War, and he and some of his friends set up an extra-legal court to try Tories. So, but that's where the term eventually evolved to what we know it as today, but that is not what our city is named after. The fountain down there shows where Lynch's ferry was. That was the ferry run by John Lynch, and that's basically what got the town started. So, thank you, Mr. John Lynch, for getting this city going. But yeah, this is going to be a fun ride. I'm excited. So far we visited a cemetery, and it had a cat in it, and it had a swing in the cemetery. It was great, and I haven't even filmed the rest of the clips yet because we're doing this in geographical order, so who knows what's going to happen. I don't know. It's going to be crazy, you guys. So I hope you have fun with the rest of the clips, and yeah, I'll see you in a little bit. Hello there. Our first stop today is the Legacy Museum in Lynchburg. It's basically a museum about African American history, so it seemed appropriate to give it a little spiel quickly. The museum was founded by the Legacy Project, which was established in 1993 by the Lynchburg NAACP. They bought this two-story Victorian house in Tinbridge Hill, which is the neighborhood we're in right now, in 1997, and over 3 years they raised $300,000 to open the museum in June 2000. And they also they created the Legacy Activity Center nearby just a few years after that. So the museum has 1,750 artifacts in its permanent collection and 300 on loan, and I would go in right now, except it's $5 admission, and I'm really cheap, and I'm a college student, so I'm just going to show you the building because it's pretty, and here it is. And it's a Victorian house. Have fun looking at it. Thank you. The Old City Cemetery, which we are about to tour a little bit, was the only burial ground in Lynchburg open to African Americans until 1885, and 3/4 of the people buried in the cemetery, as you can read on the sign if you would rather get it there, from 1806 to the present, are African Americans. So we're going to go look at some of the individual graves, and there are a lot of interesting people buried there, but we cannot look at all of them, but we'll try to get in some of the most interesting ones. Reverend Philip Fisher Morris, born 1852, died 1923, was the founder and the first president of Lynchburg Baptist Seminary, which we are going to visit later, so you'll hear more about it later. And he was also the pastor of Lynchburg's largest African-American church, Court Street Baptist, for 17 years. He is buried in the cemetery with his wife Angie, who was a school teacher in Lynchburg for almost 30 years. Behind me is the grave of Agnes Langley, 1789 to 1874, and her daughter Lizzie, 1833 to 1891. Both free blacks. I got this from the cemetery website, so I know it's legitimate. Both free blacks described as mulatto. They ran a sporting house on Commerce Street during the 19th century. According to the website, prostitution was the single most lucrative occupation per capita for free blacks in antebellum Lynchburg. And in 1860, Lizzie Langley was the third wealthiest African American in the city. Later, the Lynchburg's red light district of World War II fame was located beside the cemetery. We're going to walk by and see what it's come to now, but it's really risque. And it is not known whether the Langley's impressive monument and ironwork enclosure, seen here, was a result of the ladies' earnings or of the admiration of those of great wealth. So that's Lizzie on this side and Agnes on this side. And then there's the cat. Be my woman, girl, be your man. Elizabeth Perry Pride, 1857 to 1932, was one of the first black teachers in the Lynchburg public schools. She taught from 1880 to 1911. For the last 21 years of her career, she was principal of Polk Street Elementary School. She was a graduate of Hampton Institute and a lifelong advocate of the school's philosophy of social advancement through industrial or vocational education. She was instrumental in making cooking, sewing, and other domestic courses part of the required curriculum of black public schools, and it was a very successful program. In 1949, the new Girls' Home Economics building on the campus of Dunbar High School, which I believe we're going to visit later, we'll see, was named in her honor. So yeah, this is the Pride, the Pride family plot. Yeah, that's her stone. It's a little askew, but it says AEPP. So, Amelia Elizabeth Perry Pride. I'm really excited to talk about this tombstone, mainly because the name on it is Higginbotham. Squire Higginbotham, oh gosh, cat. Okay, Squire Higginbotham, and was born in 1820, died 1882, and Gustavus Higginbotham, 1868 to 1934. They were undertakers who operated the first African-American funeral home in Lynchburg. Their business, Strange and Higginbotham, was the name of their business. At 909 5th Street was the predecessor of Community Funeral Home. According to the paper, a large gravestone marks the Higginbotham family plot. I promise we're not even paying this cat. It's just doing this for us. Thank you, cat. Later today, we are going to visit the Court Street Baptist Church, where a tragic incident took place in 1878. But right now, we're at the cemetery, so this here is the only tombstone they've been able to find of one of the 8 women who died in that tragedy. Her name is Maria Wilson. She lived 1861 to 1878, and she was just 17 years old when she died. Alright, we're going to try to do this clip without the cat, although I feel like we're a little bit off kilter without it. I don't know if it's a boy or girl, but we're going to try anyway. This is the tombstone of Professor Frank Trigg, Jr., born 1850, died 1933. He was born in the governor's mansion in Richmond as his parents were serving Governor Floyd as slaves. He lost his arm in a farming accident, and his owner said after that, quote, since he was no more good with his hands, he'd see how good he could be with his head. So this fellow graduated from Hampton Institute just 1 year before Booker T. Washington. He graduated in 1873. Like Washington, Trigg he was a fan of the industrial education movement. He became the first black male teacher and the first black high school principal in the Lynchburg public schools. He also later became the president of Bennett College in Greensboro, North Carolina. He was the president there from 1916 to 1926. He retired at the age of 76, and he and his wife Ellen are buried here. I was going to read it from the paper, but we're here, so I don't need to give you directions to it. So we're in the Confederate section of the old cemetery, and there's this podium within this thing here, and I don't know who they were going to give speeches to from here because all that's in front of it is that bench, but it seemed appropriate to give you something from here just because it inspires me to want to speak publicly being here. So we're inside the Confederate section. Recent discoveries have revealed the existence of, quote, Negro Row within the Confederate section, although its location is unknown, so I can't show it to you. It's in here somewhere. Among the names of the 10 Negro Row burials listed on the kiosk is Jane, slave of Colonel W.H. Brown, who was the only woman buried in the Confederate section during the Civil War. So that's my speech from this cool kiosk thing. Alright, we're going to do 3 of these in a row because they're near each other. This is the grave of Jacob Majors, born 1787, died 1864. He was a free man of color and a faithful member of the local Baptist church. He served as a deacon. He was a carpenter by trade, and in 1844 he was hired to convert the old Court Street Theater into the African Baptist Church, first independent African American church in Lynchburg. And then as we walk this direction, we're going to come across the grave of Mammy Annika Mitchell, born 1850, died 1917. She was a faithful and beloved domestic servant of the Moore family of Lynchburg for 43 years. And it talks a little bit about a mammy and what that meant, and how there are apparently a lot of other gravestones in the cemetery that say that. That's not something you see up north where I'm from, so it's definitely interesting. And the kneeling angel here, it's the grave of a little 2-year-old named Emmett Hamilton Jefferson, and his father was an African-American waiter at the Union Depot in Lynchburg. So those are the last 3 graves we're going to look at before we head on to other things. So that's all for the cemetery for now. Okay, so right now we're driving through what used to be the red light district. So it looks pretty shady, right? Yeah. Oh wow, those houses. Oh boy. They look really a lot like brothels. Really. Whoa. Oh, and there's the Legacy Museum. Oh boy. Sorry, the sun's in your face there. Alright, was that the whole, was that the red light district? Oh man! We just saw the red light district, you guys. I think it might have tamed a little bit.